Click Rumble Premium and join now for $99 annually or $9.99 a month to get the entirely ad-free experience and an ever-expanding roster of content, creators, and free speech.
Subject for today.
Glad to be with you. It's Friday, which means this is a Rumble Premium Mug Club, the OG Mug Club folks. It's a love letter to you. Join up and you get to see this every Friday. Today is I guess I should say a special installment. This is a Mug Club. It's a Mug Club Undercover episode specifically relating to Mamdani there in New York. So I want to move into it pretty quickly. Captain Morgan, CEO. Hope you're well.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Would you get some new headphones?
No.
Oh, there's something different about you. I just can't quite put my finger on it. And tomorrow, Saturday, October 18th at the Big Laugh Comedy Club. Gerald. Big Laugh Comedy Club in Fort Worth, Texas. Josh Firestein, how are you, sir?
Good. I'll be bringing my Miami Rice look.
Very nice, yeah.
Fort Worth tomorrow.
I can't look at you and not see Happy Hitler with the mustache.
Yeah, sorry about that. That's not me. I don't even like that guy.
No, I know.
He's always blowing my phone up, asking me about solutions.
I know. But you two have been at odds, but
I don't know. Use Fabuloso, man. I don't know.
It's kind of a will they, won't they kind of thing. So,
we're like Ross and Rachel, me and this guy.
Exactly. Mug Club Undercover. They've brought this to me, and today's entire episode is going to be dedicated to this. Some exclusive footage from the campaign there with Mamdani. Let me set this up for you. We are a fortnight out from the New York City mayoral election. That's 2 weeks for those who aren't familiar. Yeah. I know there's some blacksmiths out there who understand the nomenclature. A fortnight. Yeah. The leading candidate right now is, I'm not going to mince words, an Islamic communist. So Zohran Mamdani is obviously right now leading both Andrew Cuomo and, as of the time of broadcasting this, the Republican candidate Curtis Sliwa,
yeah.
The Guardian guy.
Yeah.
By pretty substantial margin. Okay, so let me read you the recent poll. Mamdani's at 46%, Cuomo is at 33%, and Curtis is at 15%. So I want you to keep these numbers in mind as we go through this, and then ask yourself something. Have you noticed or have you felt in your gut recently that parts of this country are feeling, I don't want to say better or worse, that's not my place to judge, but at the very least different from how they used to be?
As a merchant, you have a legal right to sell whatever you want in the store. No one can stop you. But as a Muslim, I have a right and responsibility to let you know that it's haram. To deport, alcohol, gambling, is against Islam.
Do you hear that? And we are not in the Middle East. We're in the U.S. It's Minnesota, Minneapolis.
Governor Greg Abbott directed Texas Rangers to open a criminal investigation into the group behind a Muslim-centric housing development in Collin County.
The intent is to put Islam at the forefront of the project.
You are an Islamophobe. And although you live here, I want you to know as mayor, you are not welcome here. And the day you move out of the city will be the day that I launch a parade celebrating the fact that you moved out of the city.
Allahu Akbar.
Now, I'm not going to be discussing in this broadcast that this is by design. You can go and watch some previous videos on Islam, on the doctrine, and on their approach to what they would consider evangelizing. I'll just tell you that it's by design. There has been significant encroachment, some would say infiltration, in the West from this religious populace. Why am I choosing my words carefully? Who cares? So the UK Muslim population, just to give you an idea, from 2011 to 2021, it increased by 1.2 million people. That's a third of all British population growth. And keep in mind that those numbers don't include a lot of immigration since COVID. So that's significant. Now, if you look at the United States and you kind of look at our trajectory, first off, you have to ask yourself, do we want this country to be like the UK? Do we think it's yielded good results, or at the very least, better results or worse results? Which do you want for the United States? Now we look at the population gain of U.S. Muslims. So in 2007, there were about 2.3 million Muslims, and as of 2020, which is the latest figure, 4.5 million. So almost doubling from 07 to 20. That in and of itself, maybe you have no problem with. Now this has had some downstream effects, including over 200 Muslims elected in the United States, including 4 members of Congress, 46 state legislators, and 184 local officials. Now, New York City is on the verge of electing a Muslim socialist or communist, depending on who he's talking to its highest position.
33-year-old Democratic Socialist and New York Assembly member Zohran Mamdani taking a clear lead, endorsed by Senator Bernie Sanders and Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Mamdani's success signals a potential ideological and generational shift within the party.
The state lawmaker now seeks to become the city's first Muslim and Indian American mayor. Mamdani was born in Uganda to Indian parents and became an American citizen in 2018, shortly after graduating college.
Corporations don't want to pay just a little bit more in taxes to make a better city for all of us. My platform of a rent freeze, fast and free buses, universal childcare, funded by taxes on the rich, could be the difference between you having to move to Jersey City and getting to stay in the 5 boroughs.
I think about the words of Prophet Muhammad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who instructed us to make things easier. Do not make them more difficult. And I will tell you that I am proud to be a Muslim candidate running for mayor. An opportunity for us to show that Muslims don't just belong in New York City, we also belong in City Hall.
Eid Mubarak. I stand before you as we celebrate the end of Ramadan. We celebrate the end of our fast. And yet we know that for many, that hunger will continue. And I stand before you as one of 1 million Muslims who call New York City their home. We have 200,000 of us registered as Democrats.
Also, side note, my primary problem, aside from the grooming of children with the drag queen performances, is, oh my God, are they lazy?
Yeah.
Just lip syncing, and these aren't even real dance moves.
No, I could do that.
Ashley Simpson's career was destroyed for doing less on SNL. She just went out and mouthed the words to New York, and she wasn't even on time.
It was celebrated too.
Sorry.
Him. Yes, true.
I deserve to be admonished. Make no mistake here. You want to hit me?
Yeah.
We needed one.
Admonish. There you go.
Now, this is not something unique, but I will say that it's quite a bit more severe in this case. Mamdani is absolutely playing up his religious affiliation to make sure he secures that demographic in a way politically that really hasn't been done before. And that brings us to Robert Akleh. This is a man who's a progressive political consultant, has been for 14 years. He's worked for people like AOC, Jamaal Bowman, and currently he is the Citywide Canvass Director for Mamdani's campaign. Our Mug Club undercover reporter sat with Robert, who was pretty transparent and revealed how Mamdani is going to specifically use Islam to win the mayoral election in New York City. This is Mug Club Undercover.
Like, if they feel like if there's a little bit of an opening, they will take a chance. Like, I think that's what they kind of felt here with Zohran, that, like, the pro-Palestinian side did not have a representative. For this campaign, the thing that we really, like, keyed in on was South Asian Muslim voters and getting them out to vote. Because historically, they're registered to vote, but they don't vote. They can vote, but they don't vote.
Why not?
Nobody speaks to their values. They're all a bunch of fucking Israel-supporting politicians. They can care less. Nobody young, nobody full of hope, no, nothing. Like, so, like, why the hell would they go vote? Last time they voted was Obama.
How do you reach them, those types of people? Okay, but what's your pitch to them, knowing that they're...
Hey, this is the only Muslim running for mayor. we win, we'll be the first Muslim ever mayor. That's my hopes.
Son of a...
Uh-oh. Need a new watch.
I need a new watch.
Whoa, whoops!
And by the way, before we continue, please, you can send your tips. If you see anything, you know anything, lwctips@protonmail.com. We will protect our sources with our life. We are willing to go to jail to protect our sources. In some cases, we came pretty close, but we're doing all right. And you can enroll, by the way, at mugclubarmy.com. That's a private mailing list where you can actually be part of our boots on the ground.
I just want to make sure I heard him correctly there, because some of the stuff that we're going to hear today is stuff that maybe we've thought or we've assumed was going on, but actually getting the words in the mouth of somebody that high up in a campaign right now is a little bit different. Nobody has spoken to their values. They're Democrats. Yeah. Certainly they've been kind of pitched the Democrat pitch forever. Oh, you mean non-American values? You mean antithetical to Western culture values?
Yeah.
That's what he's saying there. And I think it's easy to just gloss over that and be like, oh, they're not speaking to their values. Wait. Everybody's been trying to speak to them on the Democrat side. So what values are you talking about? It's got to be something else.
Yeah, it wouldn't be the more traditional values that Muslims hold. You know, conservative socially, it would be their anti-American views that they think they can bank on. Yeah.
Exactly.
And you have to ask yourself, too, hey, is Gerald speaking out of turn? Often, yes. But in this case, have we seen this play out to reflect what he's saying before? Have we kind of seen how, have we watched how this story, I don't want to say ends, but we're kind of at the midpoint, the second act in some places in the world right now? Well, London comes to mind for one.
My message to Donald Trump and his team is that, your views of Islam are ignorant.
He's the first Muslim mayor of a major Western capital and proud of it. This is how Sadiq Khan went from the son of Pakistani immigrants to a lawyer, lawmaker, and now the mayor of London.
This election was not without controversy. And I'm so proud that London has today chosen hope over fear and unity over division. So I'm a proud Londoner, born and raised in this city. I'm British. I'm of Pakistani origin, of Asian heritage, of Islamic faith. I'm a father, I'm a husband. So some people can't seem to get into their heads. You can be a Westerner and a Muslim.
And I want to take a second here just to sort of cut off at the past, people saying, well, we're a nation of immigrants. We were built on immigrants. We're all immigrants. Let's look at different waves of immigrants in this country. For example, if you look at the French, if you look at, you look at the British, obviously, you look at one point, the Irish, the Italians. Did these people share Western values? There are some differences. Think of it as state borders versus national borders. Sure, Texas and Oklahoma will give each other crap all the time, but it's very different from, for example, Mexico. Irish, Italian American, British American, Polish American, German American. It's very different from a group of people, largely because of their religion, who harbor antithetical views to American values, to Western values, right? And so then we have to ask ourselves the question, you've heard the term when is it an unstoppable force meets an immovable object? Mm-hmm. Let's just use that analogy, Western civilization, immovable object, although it's really not, unstoppable force, Islam. Because Islam prescribes its followers, and not everyone follows it, I understand it, but hundreds of millions of Muslims across this globe do, they are prescribed, called to destroy the figurative walls that make up Western civilization. That's actually a requirement of them to be faithful to their religion. So the question is, has England made Sadiq Khan more Western, or did Sadiq make London more Islamic? It has to go one of two directions. And I think you can find the answer reflected in the city landscape and the culture.
People from minority communities want to live near a mosque, near halal food, near places where there are other people like them.
How can you tell us to go? We're not going nowhere. We are here to stay. Like I say, we're not here to take part. We're here to take over.
just around the corner, you got a place of worship, which is a masjid, right?
Yeah.
First, it was a Huguenot prayer hall. Then it became the Jewish synagogue. Now it's a mosque.
Don't care about international law. Care only for your duty to Allah.
One of our strengths is our diversity. It's something I'm really proud of. I've organised, since I've been mayor, events like Eid in the Square, Ramadan nights, and so forth. Why is that important? It gives a sense of belonging.
I don't like it.
No.
Vuvuzelas are terrible.
I'll just tell you, hearing the Islamic call to prayer with a drone shot is scary.
Yeah, with the London Tower Bridge or whatever it's called. It's like, it's 150 or 200 years old or whatever. It's British history. And then you're like, oh, no, we're taking it.
Right.
We're taking over.
And, if you're a patriotic American who really likes what makes this country unique, you would share some common ground with President Trump. No wonder he's irritated by this guy.
I look at London, where you have a terrible mayor, terrible mayor. And it's been so changed. Now they want to go to Sharia law. But you're in a different country. You can't do that. Both the immigration and their suicidal energy ideas will be the death of Western Europe if something is not done immediately. This cannot be sustained.
Now, some people say, hey, that's racist. But you saw the clip earlier where you had, I believe, an imam saying, disregard international law. Think only of your duty to Allah. That's important. And it's important because Islam is not like Christianity. Islam is not like Hinduism. It's not like most religions in that Islam is also a political prescription for a system of laws with great specificity. That's very important to note. You could look at the Quran as a law book in many instances and put it side by side with the Constitution and understand that they are irreconcilable. It's important to note. And there are 85 Sharia courts operating right now in the UK today.
What? That's insane, dude.
And by the way, they have different standards for divorce. They have different standards for enforcing local crime, which often happens in these communities. They go to these courts where you have women who just completely lose access to their children because a guy says the right thing 3 times, he's out. They recognize a different system of laws, and their leaders tell them, hey, the law of the land here doesn't matter. We have our own. Their sort of workaround is they refer to the Sharia courts as Sharia councils, and you can check the references, link in the description. So if anyone tries to sort of whitewash it with that, you actually know what it means. Also, best way to stay in touch and always have access to these links, download the Rumble app, follow me there. It's not an algorithm that'll put a bunch of shorts and crap you don't want to see in your feed. You'll know when we are live, and that's the best way to stay in touch, and we're not censored there. So this brings us to the manipulation, a pretty important, essential tactic of many Islamic politicians, apparently Mamdani included, is utilizing the Islamic leadership to, I don't want to say influence, I want to say pressure.
Yeah.
At the very least, I'll be lenient, pressure voters.
We go to the mosques. We organize the mosques. We get the imams to tell people, go vote. We get Zohran to go there and talk to them. That's how we do it. That's how you do it.
Yeah, why?
We go to 100 of them in a week. 100 mosques.
Yeah, it's reaching.
We get young lesbian white women to go and give out flyers at a mosque. It's so good. Yeah. I was like, all right.
How does that happen?
Because they know that's how you win.
And these types of tactics, by the way, they shouldn't really surprise anyone if you've paid attention to politics, and certainly if you've paid attention to England. Let me give you another example. Former Tower Hamlets Mayor Lutfi Rahman, he, during his election cycle, he told voters that it was their religious duty to vote for Rahman, right? He had these leaders.
Voters were told by.
Well, they were told, but it came again from that campaign.
Yeah.
Well, I'm connecting the dots because it would seem like it's similar to what's going on right here. It's your religious duty. Now, that combined with the idea of ignore international law, ignore the laws of the lands, ignore what they tell you, and follow our laws. follow our courts.
Yeah.
It's your duty to do so. Can you point me to another example? People who did that? When we say we're a nation of immigrants, Irish Americans coming in, Italian Americans coming in, German Americans coming in, Polish Americans coming in, British Americans coming in.
I mean, maybe they had their own, sections in their own little boroughs and ghettos and neighborhoods, but again, that's 150, 200 years ago.
Yeah, and they didn't have courts.
Yeah.
They didn't have their own
so
courts.
it's a different time, first of all, even if there was that kind of community.
Yeah. Now, to give you an idea,
it's antiquated.
101 imams signed a letter officially supporting that idea, that it was your religious duty to Muslims living there to vote for Rahman.
Jeez.
Then there was also the UK-based Muslim vote group, and they organized the Islamic vote out there. This is from their FAQ section. Are you telling me who to vote for? Right. That's for those who don't know, frequently asked question. So the question that they post, which by the way is really a layup, meaning they choose any questions they want and then answer them.
They pick that one.
So you'd think this would be their best foot forward. Are you telling me who to vote for? The answer, our focus at the Muslim vote is about working towards unity and coordination across our community. Importantly, that means respecting and empowering local communities. In Muslim-heavy areas, we are tapped into the local community leadership and local organizations. We work with these groups informed by data and informed by the advice of our senior advisory council to come to a consensus candidate. That means yes. And keep in mind.
Yeah, no kidding.
When they say our community, local, what they mean is the community that should have its own separate courts. The community that has been told for decades to ignore the law of the country. That's a very different community.
Right. The community that wants to tear down the West. So I think that's very important to understand. It's one of the reasons that we don't want big donors or anything like that funding these programs, because then you're beholden. Well, it's fine if you're beholden to people who are Americans, who want American values, the Republicans or Democrats, so maybe they have slightly different opinions about stuff. Right. It's not fine if you're beholden to a group of people that fundamentally don't want Western values, period. That is a big, big problem. And that's the imams coming knocking on the door saying, we got you in office.
Right.
You're about to do what we want you to do.
And I think it's also important, I want you to keep this in mind as a through line. Can you think of an Islamic country that has a culture or system of laws that you would want to import? Can you think of one? Honestly, ever. And I don't mean countries where there are significant Islamic populations, countries that were under Islamic law, rule, or where the population got to be a majority of the country. Can you think of one?
I appreciate you, clarifying that, but I'll take the first category and say no.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Even if it has a large population that's not a Muslim-ruled nation, I typically don't want the culture of a large Muslim-populated country.
Sure, and you know what? And here's the thing, and it's okay if you, maybe not taking as much of a hardline approach, ask yourself this. Pakistan or, Saudi Arabia, take your pick. Is that system, that rule of law, and that culture better or worse than Western civilization? It doesn't have to be necessarily good or bad, better or worse. And understand that that's a decision that we are going to be facing as a country. In an earlier interview here at this studio, GB News' Patrick Christie's, I believe, broke down how this procedure kind of works in practice.
And what happens there is that there are huge numbers of the local Muslim population who feel compelled to vote for those people because there is a lot of community pressure, there is a lot of religious pressure there is a lot of cultural pressure there that you have to vote. If you don't vote for that person who is pro-Gaza, then you're a genocide enabler. Are you really a proper Muslim? All of this stuff. I think many of them will come under a huge amount of pressure in order to vote for whatever candidate is backed by the local imam or the community elders or the community leaders. And then before you know it, you have got the religion of Islam seriously impacting British politics.
And that brings us to kind of the next chapter here. And I know that this is often confusing to people, about as confusing as Rashida Tlaib having an LGBTQ AIP flag right next to Palestine or Hamas. But you have to understand that today's left is completely devoid of values. For people out there who are conservative, right-leaning, or even or libertarian, it's predicated on some semblance of truth that matters to you. We tend to revile dishonesty, scams, schemes. That's not really the same for today's left, and you understand that if you have looked through their history. It's really a win at all costs strategy. So I'm not even saying that socialists, communists, the progressive left today, that they actually have compassion or share a lot with Muslims. They see Islam as a useful tool in slowly eroding Western civilization. So that brings us this kind of unholy alliance that confuses people, but that's Islam and socialism. And there was a post circulating on X recently, caught our eye here, from a member of the American Communist Party. It's still a thing, I know. Jeez. He said, "My primary goal in producing propaganda and education is to popularize communism in America. But a second goal I have is to show American Christians how much they've been lied to about Islam."
Wow.
"Many Muslims lead the kinds of lives that Christians preach about, but fail to live up to in practice. Muslims are overwhelmingly respectful of Christians." I know. We'll just...
Right.
"Most evangelical American Christians think Muslims detest Jesus to the point of wanting to behead Christians." I seen it.
I don't think that they detest Jesus. I think they detest Christians.
That's a very good point. They'll say...
They say Jesus was a prophet. Stop worshiping him. You're the piece of shit.
Yes, exactly. They say Jesus was a prophet, by the way. He's one of our Jesus. But no, he wasn't crucified and didn't raise from the dead. That was all a lie. Put it this way. The claims that Islam, and I mean this, the religion of Islam, so I'm not just saying some Muslims, the claims that the religion of Islam makes regarding Jesus are blasphemous enough that if you made them about Islam, your death would be prescribed.
Yes.
Yeah.
So in other words, let's look at the timeline, okay? You have the Jews, then you have chapter 2, Jesus. We disagree, we're not killing each other. Then you have what they would claim is chapter 3. After Jesus, another prophet we add to the books, Muhammad. Now, if there was a chapter 4 and someone said, no, we respect the Old Testament, the New Testament, Jesus, Muhammad is a prophet, and here's another prophet who just says that, Muhammad actually wasn't the holiest of prophets. He was a prophet, but he was wrong about a lot, and let me tell you how the Quran lies to you. Well, that's one step, I'd say quite a few steps further than simply drawing a flattering portrait of Muhammad. So if anyone treated Islam the same way that Islam treats Christianity, it would be an immediate call to death, supported by at least 150 million Muslims, according to recent polls, worldwide. So don't be fooled by that. It doesn't mean that they hate all individual Christians, but saying they respect Jesus, it's like me saying I respect Gerald, but in my mind, Gerald is a transgender communist.
And I'm certainly not either.
Yeah,
of those. And
I'd be like, but that's Gerald was great. He was the best transgender communist.
Right,
but I've never said that. Like, well, Jesus just said, but Jesus didn't just say he was a prophet.
Right.
So it's a very important perversion. And Christians don't want to kill all Muslims for that. We don't call for the deaths of Muslims, and we shouldn't, to be clear. If we said the same things about Islam that they say about Christianity, it would be a fatwa. They go on to write, Christians and Muslims have historically been enemies. Oh, but logically, we should be friends who respect each other's differences of opinion. One day, we will crush the ruling class manipulations of our faith and live in harmony. Let me ask you this, and this is why you think it's an unholy alliance, and you're right. One day, we will crush the ruling class. Let's assume that it's gone. Let's assume that our constitutional republic is gone. Okay. Electoral college, gone. You're left with Muslims and communists. By the way, distinctly atheist, secular religion,
right.
Communism. What do you think the Muslims are going to do with those communists? Do you think they go, hey, we were allies in this, so we're good now? Or do you think those very same communists would be met with a sword? Now you're under our rule, or you die. They don't care, they're just not there yet. And that tells you their priority is to get rid of you. That's about as far ahead as they've thought. Get rid of the capitalists. Get rid of the basis, the Judeo-Christian basis for Western civilization. It's the capitalists, it's the free enterprisers who are actually forcing the jihad and the suicide bombings.
a man drove a truck down this road and into a large crowd gathered for Bastille Day fireworks, killing at least 84 people. They were fairly certain that Islamic State had, at the very least, inspired the attack.
A manhunt has been searching for Anis Amri since the day after a tractor trailer rammed into a Christmas market, killing 12 people.
The face of Salman Abidi, identified as the Manchester suicide bomber.
Police say a man deliberately drove this rental truck into a bike path, mowing down cyclists and pedestrians. The suspect is reported to be Saifullo Saipov from Uzbekistan.
Gunman Omar Mateen pledging allegiance to ISIS, walking into the Pulse armed with an assault rifle, killing 49 people.
Khaled Massoud floors the accelerator of his 4x4. 3 people were killed outright on the bridge. 1 died later in hospital.
As gunmen opened fire at around 8 p.m., killing and injuring dozens of people. The Islamic State group claimed responsibility for the attack.
And I know what some of you are going to say. You're going to say, well, that's taking the most extreme examples to make a point. You're right. Let me use some more relatable examples. In determining if the Islamic view of how the world should be and how they govern their countries is better than the Western view. Hey, women, you like riding in the front seat if there is any other man in the car? Think you should have the right to do that? Like being able to go to the supermarket by yourself? Hey, do you like being able to freely worship at any time you want without a curfew if you're not Muslim? That applies to all of you. You like those
smiling
things?
at a stranger.
Yeah. So it doesn't have to be acts of terrorism. All of the examples, if you actually just get down to the nitty-gritty, are bad. And most people wouldn't want those aspects of the culture, right or left. But there's no doubt that Islam itself, they see Western socialists as a useful tool. And why wouldn't they? Let me take this excerpt for you from the International Socialists. They write, a feature of Islamism, like pan-Arab nationalism, is its cross-class alliances trying to control the capitalist state rather than working-class organizations trying to overthrow it. Or this excerpt from an Anglican priest. Do they go by Father Anglicans?
I don't know.
Father Fraser. Some socialists will never understand the God bit. But for those of us who believe that socialism requires a religious underpinning in order to flourish, Islam feels like the future of anti-capitalism. So it makes perfect sense when you see that Mamdani is combining Islam with socialism as a powerful tool in his bid for mayor.
Or why they lose elections now. And why they can't control the narrative anymore. Or why somebody gets, popped in the back of the head in Midtown. You're not treating people fairly. What's wrong with socialism? It's hard to say, but here's the problem. Most of the communist countries did not fall because of communism. Contrary to what people believe, they fell because authoritarianism fascism.
Wait, say it again?
They fell because they became dictators.
Okay.
They became ruled by dictators that were really bad.
Every time?
Most of the time. Nobody wants these young progressives. So they lost again.
Yeah.
That's what they said.
Yeah.
They lost again. They don't want us to. If we win, then there'll be 100 more like us. That's the DSA. That's these people.
Democratic Socialists of America.
Those f***ing kids.
What about them?
They are a different level of... they're going to change the whole country.
They're going to what?
They're going to make the country better.
And I don't want to skim past that. We'll get to something pretty shocking in a little bit. But this is something they actually teach in academia, in our institutions that you should trust. Socialism, communism, it really didn't fail because of communism. It failed because it became authoritarian every time. And what they'll do is they'll move the goalposts and they'll say, well, that's not real communism. And they usually introduce a new country. Just give it time. And I can prove it to you. We'll put it in a link in the description. We've gone through this. Yeah. Cuba, China, US. Cuba. You had Jane Fonda. You had Oliver Stone. You had Bob Dylan's Susan Rotolo, his first girlfriend, who was a noted activist, going out there praising Castro, praising communism, saying, see, Cuba is actually an example of successful communism. And did we say Cuba? We mean Venezuela. Venezuela, Sean Penn. Venezuela, Bernie Sanders. This is actually a great example of social. Did we say Venezuela? We mean, do you want to go back to Russia, where Bernie Sanders honeymooned? Communist China, with Anita Dunn saying that Mao was a great inspiration along with Hollywood elites? You can go through every single communist regime and find the current leftists, the current liberals of that day, praising it as the true example of successful communism until it wasn't. And they move on. There is no exception to that rule. Not one on earth. You guys understand that? And if you can find one, comment below. Don't point to the Nordic models. Even had the Prime Minister of Denmark say, I wish that Bernie Sanders would shut up. We're not a socialist.
Yeah. Let me point one other thing out that he said towards the end there. And I thought this really stood out to me about the DSA, and there's 100 more like us. But he said, these guys are going to take over the country. And she's like, what?
Yeah.
They're going to make America better. I think you said it right the first time.
Right.
I really do. It almost seemed like, you take it for what you will, but it seemed like a Freudian slip to me to a bit of a degree.
Better for whom?
Ooh, yeah, exactly.
And that is the question.
Yeah.
Do you think it's better or worse for Western civilization, for the country that you love? It is important. It's very important. It's not a small enclave of people. This brings us to the next point. The destabilization, which is part of the plan. That's the ultimate goal of both. It's really the only thing they share in common. Not drag queen story hour, not even marginal tax rates, not the secularist worldview that you see with communists and socialists. The only shared interest between socialists and Islamists is the destabilization and ultimately the destruction of the West. And what better way to do that? And I'm choosing my words carefully, but you'll see this next video and understand that I mean it. What better way to do that than to instigate and orchestrate an armed standoff? Here, you have Robert Akleh detailing to our Mug Club undercover journalist how Mamdani plans to handle President Trump's immigration enforcement, which is a legitimate role of the federal government. And just really pay attention to what you're hearing.
What did the police think about Zohran? Because I know that's like a little contentious.
Just what they think. You're a city employee. You get told what to do. Shut up. When did you get an opinion? You don't have a political opinion. You're nonpartisan. That's the way it should be.
If Mamdani wins, will he be able to stop ICE from coming in here and taking our undocumented citizens?
Make it harder for them, but the only thing he can do is stop the NYPD from helping.
We would have control over the NYPD afterwards,
he can go to the NYPD and be like, do not let them into the courthouses.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or they're going
and
into
what
the
would
courthouse.
they say?
Well, ICE wouldn't be able to go in.
Stop the NYPD from helping them, which means not allowing them to do their job. ICE is well within not only their purview, but they have, by and large, a mandate of the masses to deport people who are here illegally. Not just because of crime, not just because of illegal aliens costing American workers, taxpayers, $150 to $450 billion per year, but because we can. We have the right to in this country, just as they do in Islamic countries. And they enforce it far more often. So, as a mayor, you would send people who are not allowed to have an opinion, the NYPD, government workers, you would send those armed government workers to stop other armed federal government workers. Do you know what happens when two armed groups of people meet in opposition?
The bigger gun wins.
It's a violent standoff. That is what they want, and they want to be able to point to those enforcing the law, those trying to preserve Western civilization, as fascists. They're the fascists doing their job deporting people who committed a crime getting here. Not us, who perverted, who subverted, who exploited our local police force and put them in death's way, demanding that they prevent ICE from doing their job. They literally would have blood on their hands. You understand that? That's as bad as it gets. That's as perverse as it gets for a government official. A willingness to use local armed forces to enforce your opinion, which flagrantly flies in the face of federal law. That's how much they want to destabilize the West, and they will blame you for their actions.
Which is crazy, because I can't believe that the city the biggest city in America unified after Muslims attacked it 24 years ago, are now going to vote for a Muslim mayor who's going to tell those police officers to shut up, sit down, you don't have an opinion.
Yeah.
Go put your life on the line in front of federal officers, put their life in danger too.
Yep.
Insane.
And we've seen it. We've seen this in places like Portland and Chicago.
Yeah.
And by the way, my heart goes out to those local officers who kind of have to do the job they're told they need to feed their family.
Right, yeah.
At what point do they quit? At what point are you looking at a depleted NYPD because they'd rather get out of the city? There's plenty of them that are already tenured, or I don't know what the word is for a police officer union, but there's already guys that can retire.
Yeah.
Yeah, then they replace them with
communists.
Muslims. Yeah.
Replace them with Muslims and communists who are all too happy to have armed standoffs with ICE.
Yeah.
And then they tell you to be afraid of some militiamen out in the hills of West Virginia.
Well, then they blame the federal government, but we've got this kind of playing out right now in cities across America, like I said, but it's Democrats. It's people who maybe are socialists undercover. This guy's flat out in public, I'm a socialist and it doesn't matter, and Muslim. That's a different cocktail than what we've seen before. And look at the results that we've seen already in Chicago and Portland and Los Angeles and places like that. We don't have any idea what we're going to see as this stuff continues to ramp up. But you've now got somebody who's on a different playbook.
Right.
That wants the destruction of the West. And what better way to do that than to have conflict and violence? Because the federal government, see that big bad federal government you need to get rid of?
Yeah.
That's the problem. Not our guys doing our jobs. We're being compassionate. We're trying to give you free bus rides and free groceries and make sure that you guys don't have to pay any reasonable rent at all for the apartments that you live in. And don't worry, the rich people will pay for it. Like, that's just a different mentality. And how far are we away from, that American flag you've got up there? You can't fly that.
Yeah, you mean like
that's what happened in London.
Mm-hmm.
You can't fly the flag of England,
right?
Essentially.
Mm-hmm.
How far away are we? Because that is the blueprint right now with London. I don't want to be anywhere near that at all.
No, and the tolerance doesn't go both ways. That's the thing. If you go to an Islamic country, you say, hey, I don't like that. You don't even get the phrase out before you're in jail or dead.
Yeah.
They don't care. I guess these socialists, the atheist socialists in this country who say, oh, we actually have a lot in common. It's the old famous line, you promised you'd kill me last, right? When it's an authoritarian, when it is a totalitarian viewpoint, an all or nothing, a zero-sum game, as it is with Islam, everyone either converts, dies, or is subjugated. And there's, by the way, a prescription of laws for those who don't convert but are allowed to live amongst you, and what that looks like with a poll tax, what that looks like with dimitude and curfews and check-ins and no fundamental human rights whatsoever. It doesn't mean that it's practiced everywhere, but it is a prescription according to religion. And you think about this. Hey, the courts, we'll have our own courts. Hey, federal law as it relates to immigration. We have instant militia with the NYPD. We'll enforce our own laws. What more do you need to see? And as of the time of this broadcast, Mamdani is listed as having a nearly 90% chance of winning the race in New York City.
According to Kalshi.
Yeah.
When people put money on it, it's a little bit different deal. And by the way, just for anybody saying, oh, this is not necessarily his policy, this is the canvas director for Zohran's campaign.
Yeah.
This isn't some just random guy who's a staffer, because this is what they always try to do. Oh, he doesn't really represent. No, he represents what they believe.
And if I will say, if that 90% is correct, and this comes to fruition, I've got to imagine that New York City will be looking at some drastic changes, and you guys are in for a hell of a ride. And I think, look, you have different viewpoints on this, with people saying we have to do whatever we can to stop this man from being mayor because it'll destroy a once great American city. And there are some people who say, you know what, they deserve what they get. I'm more of the latter at this point. I think that if someone is so far gone, or a group of people, to elect someone like this, I think there's value in lines, in delineation. I've talked about this when having debates or conversations. It's far easier for me to have a conversation with someone who says, no, I completely disagree with you and let me tell you why, as opposed to someone who says, no, I'm a moderate and I think we have a lot in common, and they try and sneak some stuff in and frame you in a way that's disingenuous. I think there's some value in saying, well, no, this is a socialist, Islamic sympathizing mayor. Why? Because he says so. And knowing what kind of results that yields. And so if this does happen and he becomes mayor, at that point, the conversation is, all right, what do we need to point out, highlight, and make sure the rest of the country knows and sees so that they can avoid it? In other words, it'll all be for nothing if New York elects this man and it's not used as an example of what not to do. And so that's how we need to shift, if that's what comes to be here. And I really want you to ask yourself, if you live in New York, if you're watching this and maybe you're not necessarily up to speed on sort of the history of Islam and how they've influenced the West, particularly in the UK and in certain areas like Dearborn or Minneapolis here in the United States, you don't just have to go to terrorism or the most extreme examples, though it is a valid one, because you are talking about hundreds of millions of Muslims across the globe who believe that violence against apostates, infidels, is at least somewhat justified. It's a shocking number. But you don't even have to go to that. Just go to the day-to-day. And let's do this little mental exercise with both Islam and socialism. Okay, do you think it would be better or worse to not have choice in a grocery store, as socialists would have? Do you think it would be better or worse to not have choice in a banking institution, as socialists would have? Do you think it would be better or worse, if you're not Muslim, to have a curfew, to have to pay a tax exclusively for being not Muslim? Do you think it would be better or worse for women in this country? Now, I'm not even talking about feminists. I'm talking about driving cars. I'm talking about sitting in the front seat of a car. I'm talking about being able to go shopping on your own. Do you think schools would be better or worse if controlled by Islamic leadership? The day-to-day is enough for there to be a stark contrast. And what's scariest about this is some people will say, well, those are straw men. It's actually not that bad. I disagree with that. Everything I've just said is accurate. But the scariest part is there are enough people in New York City who would ask themselves that very sequence of questions and line up with the opposite answer than you did on all of them. And that's enough of a portion of New York City that may elect the next mayor. Got to keep that from coming to other cities. And a special thanks, of course, to our Mug Club undercover journalists who've been working on this for quite a long time. If you want these to continue, please do consider just click that button. Join Rumble Premium. Mug Club is Rumble Premium. Rumble Premium is Mug Club. Now, it's $99 a year. You get this hand-etched mug. 100% more show every day, the Friday show. Or try it for $9.99 a month. None of this happens without your support. I'd love to have the financial revenue of a foreign caliphate, but probably not after today. So we're funded by viewers like you. We appreciate it. Please spread the word. And if you're in New York, do your part. And if it gets bad, get the hell out.
Subject for today.